Hello everyone, I know I've not made a video in a while, bite me, I'm just trying to figure my shit out right now. I had a thought just now and I'm like, I'm going to record that shit and put it up because I think this is a pertinent understanding, a pertinent, uh, philosophical thought. That's what most of my channel has been based around. Just putting out fucking things that I think are in good little snippets of thought. That snippet of thought is that, um, when you feel like something that you could do is a good idea but would take too much time but would be good to do, you just don't think you're the right person to dedicate yourself to that. At some point you should get around to taking on that thing. If it's like learning a skill, reading a book, learning about something specific, doing like taking the time and actually putting your foot down, you're like, well, it would have been good in hindsight for me to have gotten that because let's say it became relevant all of a sudden. Here's a thought, the thought I just had. I should have studied more about political philosophy because I've encountered lots of conversations in which having a deeper knowledge of political philosophy would have been advantageous for me to cite, for me to have better grounding, to have more authority, speaking with more authority on the subject. And because I have not, and because I could not, I really run the risk of getting into a position where I could get like fucked up. In an argumentational sense where I'll look like a dumbass hypocrite who's like, yeah, like I'm smart and I know I can cite the sources of political thought, but then I don't know shit because I'm just quoting what I've heard other people say. In reference to like, oh yeah, well, that's a Rousseauan thing, that's a Locke thing, that's a, yeah, that writing comes from the French school. It's like I'm just quoting people I've heard talk about political philosophy as saying those things. I don't know specifically. I've never really read like Rousseau in a meaningful way, or Locke, or I mean I have, but like again for school and not a way that I've like actually consolidated. And having these tools of knowing where like ideas come from and citations and that kind of deal, you're like, man, it would be. You might have ran into a situation where you're like, man, it would have been great for me to have done previous research study of that type before I got into that argument, and now I'm kicking myself because I've come off as a dumbass, right? But when you have that hindsight feeling, that's not a good indicator that you should just kick yourself because you should have done it prior to this moment and now it's too late. It's a good indicator that you should do it now. If you can listen to the regret, to the hindsight in your brain, you can prepare for the future in a very meaningful way by putting away your humility and pride because you've been reality checked and actually putting in the work for that thing that you're embarrassed that you never had the opportunity to, excel at. Again, there is no time limitations on which these things become useful to you again, and you only weaken yourself by never putting your foot to the floor and finally just saying, this is an indicator to me that I need to become better. I need to become more informed in the way that I wish I was before I encounter the situation that checks me, basically. And yeah, that applies to a lot of things, not just whatever my example was, obviously. I'm thinking about that with code, where it's like, well, Python, it would have been really great if I knew Python out of high school going into college, and then I already knew how to code, and yada, yada, yada. It would have been really great. It would have been really great for me to have been like, having the knowledge that I have now that I should have gotten better. No, you would be really great in a couple of years for you to act on the hindsight you currently have now. And this is another thing about like the universe and like resonance and like occurrences of things tend to repeat, and you tend to tread the same ground that you've treaded before, and by going back and analyzing your patterns, there's nothing really irrelevant about taking care of stuff that you have in hindsight been like, I really should have taken care of that, because now there's a high likelihood that you'll have to encounter that same idea and deal with it in the future. I mean, that's just, I think, a wise thing to think and to know. Anyway, that's my video. See you in the next one.